Hey there, welcome to the Movie Review Mom YouTube channel. I'm the mom and I do the movie reviews. And my goal is to give you the heads up on filmmaking quality and content so you can decide whether or not you want to spend time or money or both sometimes watching a particular film. So today, the movie I'm reviewing is called The Critic. It's rated R, mostly for language, some content. I'll give you some tips for parents here in just a second. It's an hour and 35 minutes long, and my overall movie review mom grade is an A minus. I actually really enjoyed it and thought it was well done. So first, I'm going to give you an overview in a nutshell, and then I'll point out things I liked, things I didn't like, tips for parents, interesting lines, funny lines, themes worth talking about, and we'll finish up with recommendations for other films that are sort of similar that you might also really like. All right, so let's dive in. The story is about a powerful London theater critic who becomes entangled in a web of deceit and murder. The film was directed by Anand Tucker. Writing credits go to Patrick Marber and Anthony Quinn. So the film was actually adapted from Anthony Quinn's novel Curtain Call. Now, I haven't read that, so I can only judge on the face value of the film. But if you have read the novel, comment down below. I would love to find out how similar or dissimilar it is to the actual source material. I've considered my role as a film critic many, many times, and I do it seriously. My goal has always been to help people decide for themselves which movies they want to spend their time and their money on by explaining, as I mentioned, the film content and the quality and giving parents especially a heads up on that content. Movie ratings are different across countries around the world, so they can't be really trusted to paint a true picture. Many years ago, I was teaching a lot of international students for a university, and one of their tasks or assignments every week was to watch American movies to learn English, and they would write a report about it. And oftentimes it was a rated R horrible movie that had maybe tons and tons of bad language and nudity and violence. And I thought, I need to give these sweet people a heads up. And that really was the origins of what started my career as a film critic, so to speak. So hopefully my reviews are helpful for you. And if they are, give my reviews a thumbs up, subscribe, you know the drill. Now, let me give you quick tips for parents. First of all, I think kids are going to be bored. It's a movie about adults talking, basically. There is profanity, including several F-bombs. We see a naked man in a bathtub several times, but we only see his bare chest. There's cigarettes, alcohol, talk of a gay man's proclivities, and we see gay men arrested in a park. This was the time back in the days when homosexuality was illegal. The film takes place in the United Kingdom, where it was illegal and people were arrested. There's also talk of an affair. We see the naked backside of a woman, but it's kind of in the dark, so you mostly see the silhouette. There is suicide talked about and murder. And luckily, they both take place off screen. We just know that they occurred. Now, some of the themes that are illustrated very well are disrespect, praise, approval, blackmail, ambition, validation, manipulation, narcissism, justice, the power of the written word, and even some racism. So here's a long list of things that I really liked about this film. First of all, Ian McKellen. He was absolutely stellar and deserves another Oscar nomination. And finally, hopefully, a win at the ripe young age of 84 years old. He created such a delicious, narcissistic character that made me laugh and cringe and hurt a little inside. Gemma Arterton was just wonderful as well, giving us a nuanced performance while looking beautiful in every scene. She gives us an extremely vulnerable character who desperately craves validation and is willing to make sacrifices for her ambitious career in theater. I was proud of her for breaking off an affair once she found out her lover was married. I'll never understand women who can carry on with married men. It's just despicable to me. So, of course, I didn't like that element of the movie, but there were other elements too. Other standouts in the cast were Alfred Enoch, Mark Strong, Leslie Manville, Ben Barnes, Romola Garai. They were all fantastic. Ian McKellen previously starred with Mark Strong and Ben Barnes in the cute 2000 movie called Stardust. Did you ever see that one? I actually just recently watched it again a couple of weeks ago. I think I've maybe seen it 3 or 4 times since it first came out. I thought it was really cute. When the movie first appeared, this movie, at the TIFF Festival, that's the Toronto International Film Festival, the dark ending that they had at the time received very mixed reviews. Now, I don't know exactly what it was back then, but it was reshot. And there were definitely 2 ways that the movie could have ended. And I would have liked both, honestly. One is a more happier ending where there's some resolution. And the other one is a feeling of, oh, what was all that for? And I like that feeling too. I mean, if you're going for justice, that's one thing, but I like movies that make you feel something. So even that dark ending, assuming that I think I know what it might have been, is still good. Everything doesn't have to be tied up in a nice, neat bow for me. Excellent costume design in this period piece. And there's quite a bit of humor in the dialogue in Acts 1 and 2. Yet it takes a back seat, definitely, to the dark crimes that are featured in Act 3. The set designs, by the way, are rich, sultry, and beautiful. The film is really lovely to look at. Now, onto the list of things that I didn't like or thought could have been done better or differently. For example, the incredibly talented Leslie Manville was only given a small role. Still, it was great to see her. She's just such a tremendous actress, and I wanted to see her spotlighted more. But the story wasn't about her, obviously, so she's a supporting character. The tone definitely shifts, as I mentioned, from Act 1 to Act 3. I hadn't seen a trailer for this, and so I was kind of surprised by the turn. Some pre-Nazi fascism is introduced, but it doesn't really go any further other than to let you know this is the time period and things are shifting politically. For example, the fact that homosexuality was illegal and that kind of thing. Some viewers have criticized the presence of too many characters to keep track of. And I think that's true in some movies, and I've mentioned that in my reviews for some movies, but I didn't really feel too pulled in many directions on this one. I looked at them as all supporting characters that supported the common thread of the theme of the film. And as pretentious as Jemmy Erskine was, I was surprised that he didn't insist everyone call him James. That sounds a lot more sophisticated, right? Now, whenever I watch movies, I write down the funny lines and interesting lines simply so I can share them with you so you can get a taste for the dialogue and the script writing quality. So you can see all of them on my written review at moviereviewmom.com, but I'll share some of them with you right now. So one of the funny lines was spoken by Leslie Manville. Actually, it's a conversation between Leslie and her daughter. Her daughter is played by Gemma Atherton. And so the daughter says to the mother, "I wish you would stop meddling." And the mother, Leslie Manville, says, "I'm not meddling, I'm mothering." And I thought that was such a good line because I'm a mother. I guess now I'm going to use that with my kids if they ever say that. And then there were a lot of interesting lines. I really liked this line spoken by Gemma Arterton's character. And she says to the critic, "You formed me." He has been so critical of her since she started acting. And finally, she kind of gets her guts up to go and confront him and say, "What is wrong? You criticize me for being too thin, and the next minute you criticize me for being too fat, and contradictory information." And she's like, "What's the deal?" And then she explains to him that it was because of him that she wanted to be an actress and perform on the theater. And so she says that early on in the film, and you see how much she just idolizes this man, even though he's been very cruel to her and continues to be cruel to her in many ways. And I don't want to give any spoilers. But one of the funny lines that he says to her, which is crushing but also funny, is when he says to her, "There is art in you, Miss Land. My disappointment is in your failure to access it." Ouch, right? That was a really good slam. Another really interesting line is spoken by Ian McKellen, who says, "He who lives in fear dies in shame." And someone says, "Oh, that's a good one. Who said that?" And he's like, "I did just now." And then I'll leave you with another line that he says, and that is as he's explaining why he's so harsh to performers in the theater. He says, "We are forming the aesthetic taste for generations. The fascists may come and go, but theater is eternal. It matters more than politics." And again, that's a reference to the time frame that this movie is filmed in, but also how he views his timeless critiques. Now, I'm not so vain to think that about my movie reviews. Truly, my goal is just to give people the heads up so that they can decide which movies they want to watch, and then they can determine if they like them or didn't like them for whatever reasons. I just, as a mother, wanted a heads up before I took my kids to go see movies in the theater, for example. And now, I mean, that was even before streaming. And so everything is so easily accessible. So many times my husband will start watching a movie and then say, "Oh, that was terrible," and he stops watching it. And I'm like, "You should have asked me. I watched it. I reviewed it. I could have saved you that time." And that's really how I feel, because time is so precious. Anyway, let me give you some recommendations for 3 films that I instantly thought of as I was watching this one that I think are really good. The first one is called The Imitation Game, starring Benedict Cumberbatch. And we learn about the invention of really the first computer during World War II, kind of during the same time period. But we also get to see how he, as a homosexual man, was dealing with the illegality of his sexual expression and that kind of thing. Really interesting film. And then the next 2 movies are also films where Patrick Marber wrote the screenplays for them, as he did in this film. So this next movie is called Notes on a Scandal, and that was Patrick Marber's very first screenplay. And then the next one is called Closer. So I don't know if you've seen either of those 2. If you like this movie, then I think you might like those, a little bit on the artsy fartsy murder mystique type of vibe. Anyway, if my reviews are helpful, give them a thumbs up. And when you get a minute, visit me on social media. I'm all over the place as Movie Review Mom, but I'm also all over the place as Trina Boice, where you can find out about my newest book. I've got 31 out right now, as well as my online courses, my products, and my shenanigans. Have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.